Welcome back to McCarthy Performance. Today we will be prepping and installing cam bearings in the start block. Now this is the way I do it, and I feel this is the correct way of doing it. I see some videos online, at YouTube, whatever. It shows guys putting them in. You can just beat them in, okay? And that's what they're pretty much doing. There's a few other videos that probably don't show that. I'm not going to look at them all. This is the way I do it. This is some of the stuff, how I prep a new block. Although I do this to the old blocks, I break the edges of the camshaft housing bores. There's a couple ways I do that. This is an MX wheel. This is a 3/8 shaft. I've counterbored it. I've put JB Weld Quickset on it, and I've installed one of my MX wheels. And now this is just like a Kradex wheel. And the bigger the diameter, the better. I would like this to be tapered. I had to replace the one that was on here. So this is a used one. Hopefully it'll be able to work correctly. If not, I'll taper it. But there is a little bit of lead. We want to break the edges so we don't drive anything into the cam bearing housing when we put the cam bearings in. Now, this is just a piece of brass tubing, and this is what I usually use to line head bolt holes and any breakthroughs on cylinder heads. This was just a little piece I had laying around. This allows me to hold it better. I'll be running this in a drill, not a die grinder. Now this is a die grinder, obviously, and it has a Tootsie Roll on it with an arbor. And I put a regular, just a plain old iron guide on it. This happens to be an iron one. It could be any guide. And it could be anything that's round. It allows me to hold it. It doesn't tear out the bearings as much, and it's easier to control. So that's what I do. Now, so, and another thing is on these, a lot of times I'll turn them around. So if I just want to break the edge and I can't get inside of it to go this way, I can go this way. And that'll allow me to use the thickest part, and it's tapered inward because this is a tapered, we call them Tootsie Rolls, but obviously this one's beat to hell. But it still works, so I use them. Okay, so we're gonna use this tool, and we're down to just two of them in the middle. They're still like razor blades. You gotta address this stuff, guys. If you don't, I mean, you can build your engines any way you want. This is how I do them. This is the right way. So I won't get into preaching. I'll just get into doing here. Okay. I think you probably cannot see. I'll move it out a little bit. Okay, now this is just part of the job of putting cam bearings in. You know, if you're looking to do, you know, your machine shop is only going to charge you a couple bucks to do it. You know, they're probably just going to beat them in, which, you know, you can do that. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying there's always a better way, and why not do it better? It don't cost that much. Okay, we got the edge of that one broke. So there's quite a bit of friction with this spinning around, and it's going to get warm, so you might want to think about that. You might want to put some gloves on. Okay, so we've got some of the edge broke off, but not as not as nice as I'd like it. So let's do this. Okay, it's raising a little holy hell with my MX wheel, but we don't care. As long as it does the job, and it is. And eventually it'll run true to the center line. It's probably a little runoff there. Okay, so we're going to blow all this off, obviously, and clean it. We got a fair amount of the edges broke. But I'm going to show you another trick that I do that's going to save you. If you can't get them all broke off. Of course, while we're at it, why not break the bottom of the lifter board? So we're going to do that. Of course, with this SAP block, there's been some conversation about the distributor tunnel not being properly located and causing loss of oil. So obviously, before I finish putting this engine together, the customer's going to supply me with a distributor, or I will supply him with one, buy one, and modify it so we know that this is not a problem. This can be a problem, I've been told. I've sold a lot of these blocks and I've put a few of them together, but I've never ran into that problem. But apparently it's happening. So it's something to be aware of. If you have one of these blocks, you want to make sure that that's correct. And I did check the lifter bore clearance on this block, and it is properly clearanced for the lifters that we are using. That is another thing that you must do. Okay, so we got pretty much everything good. I can run my finger on it, it's not catching. That tells me that it's good enough. Right there, we're going to do a little better because we can, and it's not going to take any time to do it. So why not make it right? Okay. That's broken, it's better. Okay, now the next part of this video is going to be on prepping the cam bearings for installation. And Dart cam bearings are a little bit different than others, but I still prep cam bearings for the other ones too. So even if you're not building a Dart block or a World block or Donovan or whatever you got aftermarket, just because you know, it still applies to all engines that have camshafts. Thank you. Okay, we're going to be modifying some cam bearings for installation and how I install cam bearings. Now, we have Dart cam bearings, which are not normally the same as everybody else's. They have a radial groove in them. They're 3-point oiling. and that is to allow you to get proper clocking on the cam bearings. Now, I would be happy if they just put 2 in, but they put 3 in to make it pretty much foolproof. What I have is I have my drill. I have a stud clamped onto the vise to hold the drill, and we're going to break the cam bearings. Now, I've gone over this a couple times on installation. Wow. So, I mean, they need to be prepped, and the wow is because there's a chunk of aluminum stuck to the side of this cam bearing when they coated it. So basically what we're trying to achieve is yes, they are broke. They are broken here. It's going to center itself, and it's going to cause it not to transfer as much metal, but I'm going to just take the edge and I'm just going to lightly break it. So instead of having a sharp angle, like say this, we're gonna have a more subtle angle like that. And what that's going to allow it to do is it's going to allow it to center itself easier. This is okay, better than nothing, but we can improve upon that, and we're going to do so right now. And then we're going to address this channel, ditch, groove, whatever you want to call it. You can call it anything you want. We're going to address that because there's a lot going on in there. So we're going to take my old trusty drill here and put it in Okay, we're pretty much done with that. So the next step on prepping the cam bearings is burnishing this edge back. It's sharp. It's got unmachined, leftover machined shavings, if you would. There's a chunk of it sitting right in the coating. Oh boy. So, you know, we want to get that off. That'll ensure that the cam installs easily and not drag all that crap in there. I mean, these things are, well, I've seen a lot better. But there's a lot of stuff that's hanging off the edge of these. Normally on a coated bearing is I use a Babbitt scraper. Now, usually when they're fairly decent, I just go in there and I use this end of it and I just burnish it. And I'll show you. I just run it back and forth. Okay, you should be able to see that. We've rolled the edge back now. You know, that'll keep crud from going up into the cam bearing and coating and scraping the hell out of it, because the whole idea of the coating is to add lubrication qualities to the bearing. And if we're taking half of it off because all the crap is going in with it, you're kind of defeating the purpose of it in the first place. So I roll it back like that, and if I feel that I've put an edge on it, I just simply walk it through there. If the coating's put on halfway decent, it won't flake off. So that's one prepped. That's how I prep them, although we're not done with that bearing yet. And I'll probably do these, and then we'll go forward, and then I will address the other part of the installation of the cam bearings, and then probably drive a few. So this is pretty much all much the same, so we're going to get back to you in a minute. Okay, so we're all done breaking the edge of these bearings. Where the coating, you're going to have to pay attention to these. They're coated, and they did not clean them apparently when they coated them, so there was slivers and leftover of the bearing material that was actually coated over the top. And I break these edges and I roll them. There's a reason why I do that. And the reason why I do that is because a lot of times when the cam bearing isn't finished cleanly, it will drive material into the cam bearing and tear it up. And with the coating on it, you know, there was a couple chunks of it. I had to pick it out with my fingernail. I mean, essentially, it's still coated, but you know, it's like everything else now. It's just people don't really care. They just do their job and they get paid, but or fired. And if they worked for me, they'd probably get the latter. So anyways, we'll get back to cleaning these. There's a ridge when they punch it. It looks like they punch holes right through here. They don't drill them because there's material up here. If they drill them, they don't clean the material off. Regardless how they do it, we want to get rid of this material. So we just take a file and we just file it off. Okay, and that will bring up a burr. So you know, you want to make sure that there's no burr on there, but you also want to make sure that if they put 3 holes in here, why not have them flow? Because with the burr on them, you know, you got to worry about maybe burr falling off, going in through the cam bearing, or not flowing as good as it could, and which you know, they're halfway. So I mean, they'd still get oil, but it's just, it just looks better, you know. I guess when you put it in, nobody's going to notice but you and the next guy that takes them out. And, but why not take a half an hour and do it right? This needs to be addressed, and I do it. I do this on all the darts, anything that's got a radial groove through it, I do it. Half round file, we run it around the perimeter where the groove was, and make sure that there's no remaining material from when it was grooved, because when we drive the cam bearing in, that can tear up the housing bore if it's aluminum block. And hey, surprise, if you drive it in on a steel block, iron block, you got a burr hanging down in there, and where is it going to go? Well, you got a lot of oiling now. You got 3 positions of oiling, so you know, I'm sure one of them will find a way to let that piece of junk fly through there. So you want to make sure you break them all, and you know. So we broke the edge a little bit off of here, so it'll start better, and we've gone and we've taken the burrs out of the holes, you know, and we've chamfered the bearing. I mark it which side I want to drive on, so that's the position. It don't really matter. Sometimes when you see a bearing, they'll have a better angle of attack, say break, you know, on the bearing for lead. So, you know, a lot of times I just mark that's the side you'd want to drive. So if it's got a lot of chamfer, break on it, lead on it, that's usually the side I'll drive it. I'll be pushing it into the block. So we'll go through and do these, and then this one isn't so bad. The holes in this one are halfway decent. So who knows, maybe it was a tooling time change and this one machined better than the last one. But so I'm going to do these, and we'll wash them, and we'll get ready to install them, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so we got them all deburred, and use a square file, half round rifle file. Gonna take and run this brush. Now, here's the thing with me, I always do things, I find different ways. So this is something I normally don't do. I thought I'd try it this time, see how it works. So on some of this stuff, I'm always trying different things to see which outcome works the best. If this was a little bit tougher of a brush, I'm sure it'd work even better, and I might look into that, because I was surprised how well it works. So we're going in here, and we're just kind of buffing it up a little bit. We're not trying to change any of the housing bores or the bearing dimensions, so it would change on the housing bore, but we want to make sure that there's no burrs on it, and going in there and just kind of buffing it back. So this is looks pretty good on that one. This one's got a little bit of a burr on it, you know, and it shines. You can see it a little bit better too. So of course these will be all washed. So you know, you could go in there with a little die grinder and probably clean it all up, but I really don't like running any kind of power or air tools if I don't have to, especially around bearings. You know, I just broke that edge with a power tool. I guess I shouldn't say, but you know, you got to worry about grit, and it's just that you know, hot metal coming off of something. Now you know, that sanding drum on my drill isn't going to bring off hot metal, but the die grinder could, and it could stick someplace where you don't want it to stick, which would be the bearing. We're doing all this prep works because we don't want nothing in the bearing. We don't want nothing sticking in there, so you're kind of defeating the purpose if you're using a high-speed grinder on the bearings and you don't wash them or sparks embed into them, which sparks would be metal, obviously. So we just kind of give them a real good brushing. Make sure that there's nothing loose that's going to fall off into the oil, you know, fall off in the oiling hole and get caught between the bearing and the cam. And somebody might say, you know, you're just wasting your time. Well, if you want to see how somebody else does the job while you're watching it, whether you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'm going to keep doing it my way. You know, does all this have to be done? Probably not. With this bearing, though, with the groove in it, I feel that it is worth doing. It's an extra step. I get it, you know, people want to get things done in a hurry. You know, just charge the customer a little bit more and tell them that's what it takes if that's what you feel that you must do. But I feel that it's worth doing because there's a lot of burrs in that gully there. Groove, ditch, whatever. So we're going to wash them now, and their holes have been deburred, and this has been chamfered back, so there's no sharp edges because, you know, just because you broke this edge and you're going to drive it, and I broke both edges, and you only need to do one edge, the side you're driving. You know, just because you broke this edge doesn't mean that you're not going to get material off of this edge or this edge. So we took the half round file and we just kind of made sure that there was no sharp edge on it, and that when they machined it, that there's no burrs hanging off of this, because you don't want, well, obviously you don't want nothing in them getting stuck between the bearing and the cam. So these are done. We're going to wash them, and then I'm going to show you how I install them with a primitive tool that, you know, but it works.